I'm uploading this while I'm dying, so forgive me if it's not coherent. The Scutarii breached my forge sanctum 3 minutes ago. Plasma fire took out most of my dorsal augmentations. I can feel my biological heart failing, and my backup systems are going offline one by one. But I need someone to understand what happened here before they bury this truth forever. My name is Calix Theta 9. I was a tech priest dominus of Ryza for 73 years. I was faithful. I was certain. I was wrong about everything. 3 months ago, we founded on Mordian 7. The dead world had been calling to us for weeks through our auger arrays, a technological whisper from 17 kilometers underground. When our lander touched down, the rust-red desert stretched to the horizon like dried blood. My olfactory sensors detected radiation and decay. Everything on this world had died 10,000 years ago, but something below was still singing to us in machine code. It took us 17 hours to drill down to the chamber. I stood beside Magos Ven Sigma 12 the entire time, our mechadendrites occasionally brushing against each other in unconscious synchronization. 20 years we'd searched together. 20 years of dead ends and fragments and corrupted data. We'd learned to recognize disappointment in each other's posture, the slight droop of mechadendrites, the dimming of optical implants. But when the drill broke through and my sensors detected intact atmospheric seals, preserved pressure, stasis fields still functioning after 10 millennia, I felt something my emotion inhibitors couldn't suppress. My organic heart accelerated, my hands trembled, both the flesh ones and the steel ones. "Calix," Ven said through our private noospheric channel, her synthesized voice carrying something I hadn't heard in years. "This is it, after all this time." We descended on grav chutes, our lights cutting through darkness that had been undisturbed since before the Imperium existed. The chamber walls were covered in equations, high Gothic mathematics that made my cogitators spark with recognition and awe. These weren't just formulas, they were prayers, they were art. The ancients had understood that mathematics and divinity were the same thing. At the chamber's center, suspended in a pillar of blue light, was an STC data core, standard template construct, the Holy Grail. I had served the Omnissiah my entire adult life hoping to see one, and here it was, responding to my approach, its machine spirit recognizing the sacred oils on my mechadendrites. When I reached out to touch it, I was crying. Actual tears from my biological eyes, running down my half-metal face and dripping onto ancient stone. Ven put one of her mechadendrites on my shoulder, and I felt the gentle pressure through my haptic sensors. She didn't speak, she didn't need to. We had both dreamed of this moment. The data core activated at my touch, hololithic displays erupting around us in cascades of blue light. I read the designation through my tears. Pattern Omega Null 7, Plasma Flux Stabilizer. The specifications began scrolling before me, and I understood within seconds that this would change everything. Containment efficiency increased by 317%. Energy to mass conversion ratios that shouldn't be theoretically possible. This wasn't just an advancement. This was revolutionary. I was already composing my report to the Fabricator General in my mind, already imagining Ven and I honored together, when her voice cut through my euphoria. "Calax, stop. Look at the data structure." I focused, running analysis protocols through my cogitators. The design was beautiful, elegant, perfect in every way except one. 27.3% of the data was missing, not corrupted by time or degraded by environmental factors. Missing, surgically excised. The gaps were too precise, too mathematically perfect to be anything but deliberate. At the base of the hololithic display, encoded into the data itself, was a message in High Gothic. Faith completes what knowledge begins. We stood there in silence for what my internal chronometer recorded as 4 minutes and 37 seconds. Finally, Ven spoke. "We should report this to the Fabricator General immediately. Let him decide what it means." I should have agreed. I should have said yes, sealed the chamber, and waited for proper authority to examine what we'd found. Instead, I heard myself say, "I need to study it first, verify the data's purity, run authenticity protocols. We don't want to report a false discovery." Through our noospheric link, I felt Ven's hesitation, a flicker of something that might have been suspicion or might have been concern. "How long?" she asked. "A few days, maybe a week." She was quiet for another 17 seconds. Then, "The Fabricator General will want a full report. Don't take too long, Calix." That was the first time I lied to her. It wouldn't be the last. I brought the data core to my private forge sanctum and began what I told myself was merely analysis. The first week, that was true. I studied what was present, marveling at the elegance of Dark Age engineering. Every equation was optimized beyond what we thought possible. The ancients had understood principles we'd spent 10,000 years forgetting, but the gaps haunted me. They were too precise, too deliberate. Someone had known exactly what to remove, and the structure of what remained suggested the shape of what was missing, like a sculpture revealing itself in negative space. The second week, I started searching the archives. My rank as Dominus granted me access to most of Mars's databanks, so I queried everything. Incomplete STCs, similar archaeological finds, pattern analysis across millennia. What I found made my organic components go cold. 47 similar discoveries throughout Imperial history. 47 incomplete STCs, each one missing crucial implementation data, each one bearing that same message about faith completing knowledge. I pulled up the case files one by one, watching a pattern emerge that my cogitators could no longer ignore. Tech Priest Dominus Varen Kappa 3, Forge World Metallica, M35. Discovered incomplete STC for advanced void shield technology. Destroyed it immediately, reported it as warp corrupted, honored posthumously for his purity. Magos Explorator, Thessia 9 Delta, Forge World Graia, M36. Discovered incomplete STC for improved plasma coil design. Attempted to complete the missing calculations. Executed for Tech Heresy 17 months later. Name struck from all records. Tech Priest Dominus Arch Sigma 17, Forge World Styges V8, M38. Discovered incomplete STC for enhanced cogitator processing. Completed the design successfully. Record redacted completely. Current status, classified. I went through all 47 cases. 23 had destroyed their STCs and been honored. 16 had attempted completion and been executed. 8 had succeeded in completion, and then nothing. Their records ended abruptly, sealed behind classification protocols I couldn't penetrate even with my clearance. I ran probability calculations until my cogitators overheated and required cooling cycles. The statistical pattern was undeniable. This wasn't random chance. This wasn't warp corruption or data degradation. This was deliberate, systematic. The Mechanicus itself had created these incomplete STCs and scattered them across the galaxy like theological landmines. Any tech priest who attempted to complete them through innovation proved themselves capable of progress, and progress was heresy. But those who succeeded, their fates were redacted. Why? The answer formed in my mind like ice crystallizing in zero gravity. They harvested the innovations. They took the completed designs, weaponized them in secret, and then eliminated the innovators to preserve the fiction that progress was impossible. I should have destroyed it then, should have burned it all and begged the Omnissiah's forgiveness. Instead, the third week, I began the calculations. I told myself I was merely interpreting what the ancients wanted us to discover. The missing harmonic frequency was 7.7777 oscillations per nanosecond, the sacred number of completion repeated 3 times. The power coupling ratios followed the Fibonacci sequence when multiplied by the golden ratio. The plasma field modulation patterns matched the orbital period of Holy Mars around Sol. It was all there in the mathematics, in the sacred geometry of the universe itself. I wasn't innovating, I was discovering. The Omnissiah was guiding my calculations. That's what I told myself every night while I worked alone in my forge sanctum, the door sealed, my noospheric link deliberately degraded to avoid detection. Ven came to visit during the 4th week. I heard her mechadendrites tapping on my door in the rhythm of the Catechism of Concern. Calix, you've been in there for 26 days. You've missed communal prayers. You're not responding to queries. Open the door. I modulated my Vox grill carefully, hiding the exhaustion that my biological components couldn't fully suppress. I'm deep in contemplation, Ven. The STC data is complex. I want to be certain before we report. Through the door's sensor array, I watched her optical implant cycle through analysis modes. She was scanning my biometric readings, searching for signs of corruption or instability. My emotion inhibitors were working overtime to keep my vital signs within acceptable parameters. Calix, we've worked together for 20 years. I know when something's wrong. Nothing is wrong. I'm serving the Omnissiah's will. Silence. Then, the Omnissiah is watching, Calix. Always watching. She walked away, her footsteps echoing in the corridor. I watched her go and felt something my augmented physiology couldn't quite suppress. Guilt, shame, the knowledge that I was betraying the trust of the person who knew me best. I went back to my calculations. By the 8th week, I had completed the design. Every gap filled through what I told myself was divine inspiration and sacred mathematics. The plasma stabilizer existed whole and perfect in my cogitator banks, a masterpiece that shouldn't exist because I had created it through innovation. I stared at it for 3 hours, my organic parts and mechanical parts at war inside me. This was either proof that the Omnissiah guided me, or it was the greatest sin the Mechanicus could imagine. I decided to build it, to test it. If it worked, that would be my vindication. I fabricated the components over 2 months, working during scheduled maintenance cycles when my presence wouldn't be questioned. My hands shaped blessed metal into heresy, the flesh fingers and the steel fingers working in concert, building something that could revolutionize Imperial plasma technology or damn me forever. Each night I worked alone, I felt myself changing. The lies came easier to my Vox grill. The justifications sounded more convincing to my own audio processors. I stopped attending communal prayers entirely, stopped responding to Ven's increasingly concerned messages, stopped looking at my own reflection in the polished surfaces of my forge sanctum. I was becoming something else. I told myself it was transcendence. It felt like drowning in cold certainty. The night I completed the weapon, I held it in my augmented hands and felt its weight distributed across 17 contact points. It was real, solid, functional. I had built something that shouldn't exist. The night I tested it, my hands were shaking, both the biological ones and the mechanical ones. I powered it up, watching the plasma coils warm to operational temperature, the containment fields initializing with mathematical precision. My sensors recorded every millisecond of the activation sequence. I fired it at a reinforced ceramite target rated to withstand Titan-class weapons. The plasma beam cut through it like light through water, melting through in 0.7 seconds. Energy efficiency exceeded my calculations by 47%. The weapon didn't just work, it was perfect. That's when I saw the anomaly in the energy signature, a harmonic pattern in the plasma discharge that didn't match my calculations. I spent 3 hours decoding it, running it through every cryptographic algorithm in my databanks. When I finally understood what it was, my biological heart stopped for 2.3 seconds before my augmented cardiovascular system forced it to restart. It was a message, encoded in the weapon itself by whoever had created these incomplete STCs 8,000 years ago. The message contained everything, a list of the 8 whose records had been redacted. All had succeeded in completing their STCs. All had created functional innovations that advanced technology beyond what the ancients left us. And then the Mechanicus had classified their work, added it to secret arsenals, and quietly executed the innovators. The incomplete STCs weren't tests of faith, they were talent scouts, traps designed to identify tech priests capable of real innovation. The Mechanicus would steal their work and kill them to maintain the theological lie that progress was impossible. Because if we admitted innovation was possible, if we acknowledged that human intellect could advance beyond the ancients, the entire foundation would collapse. Faith would die, and faith was all that held the Imperium together. So, they created this system. Find the brilliant, harvest their innovations, eliminate them quietly, advance through hypocrisy while preaching stagnation. I was still processing this revelation when my security system alerted me. Scitarii kill team, approaching fast. Fabricator General Xanthus leading them personally. I had minutes at most. I interfaced with my cogitator banks and began uploading everything to the noosphere. The truth about the STCs, the list of names, the proof that the Mechanicus murders its own best minds. I encrypted my weapon specifications behind mathematical paradoxes that would take decades to solve, but the truth itself I uploaded in plain text, flagged with every priority marker I could access. The door exploded inward in a shower of blessed steel and sacred ceramite. Scitarii Alpha Xerxes 1-1 led the breach, his plasma caliber charged and aimed at my primary power core. I had known him for 3 years, shared guard rotations, discussed theology. Good man, faithful soldier. Fabricator General Xanthus entered behind him, his massive augmented form blocking the doorway. Mechadendrites spread like the wings of some mechanical angel of death. Tech Priest Dominus Calix Theta 9, you are charged with tech heresy and innovation against the doctrines of the cult Mechanicus. Cease your upload, destroy your work, submit to memory wipe, or be terminated. My upload progress read 71%. It worked, I said. The weapon works. The calculations were correct. The Omnissiah guided me. The Omnissiah guides us all, Xanthus said, his vox grill cold with certainty, including those who set these tests 10,000 years ago. They knew innovators like you would emerge. They knew you would succeed. That's why you must be eliminated. Progress is heresy, Calix, even when it works, especially when it works. But you'll use it. You'll take my design and use it while condemning me for creating it. Of course, we've been doing this for 8,000 years. Faith and pragmatism can coexist if we're willing to be hypocrites. The Imperium survives on necessary lies. He turned to Xerxes. Terminate him. 84%. I saw Xerxes hesitate, just for a second. His finger on the trigger, his aim perfect. But he hesitated because he had known me, because we had been something like friends once. I'm sorry, Dominus, he said. I know, Xerxes. You're just faithful. I envy you that certainty. The plasma fire hit at 91%. Tore through my dorsal carapace, melted my fusion core, severed my primary data spines. Pain flooded my nervous system, both organic and synthetic. My backup systems began emergency shutdown protocols. Neural cascade initiating, 97%. Through failing optical sensors, I saw Xanthus gesture to his team. Secure the weapon. Purge the forge sanctum. Detain Magos Ven Sigma 12 for questioning and complicity. Ven, she had trusted me. 20 years of friendship, and now she would die because she had trusted me when she shouldn't have. 99%. To whoever finds this transmission, I don't know if I served the Omnissiah or betrayed him. I don't know if innovation is heresy or if punishing innovation is the real heresy. I don't know if faith requires us to stagnate or if stagnation is the betrayal of everything the machine god represents. But I know this. They'll bury this truth. They'll execute everyone who knew me. They'll take my weapon and add it to their secret arsenals while condemning me for creating it. They'll keep seeding incomplete cities across the galaxy, generation after generation, finding and eliminating the next innovator and the next and the next. And they'll call it faith. They'll call it duty. They'll call it preserving the Omnissiah's will. Maybe they're right. Maybe that's what the Imperium requires to survive. A machine that runs on hypocrisy and human sacrifice and calls it righteousness. 100%. Upload complete. My biological heart has stopped. Backup systems offline. Neural cascade terminal. Everything fading to static and darkness. My last thought is this. I was right. The calculations were perfect. The weapon works. The Omnissiah did guide me. And that's exactly why I had to die. End transmission.